When it comes to chicken, I'm your guy.
Blinking.
I'll have what Joseph's has.
Look, somebody's talking about you.
This is what we call the voice of God.
Popping.
Everybody just gets to focus on you.
Grab me.
Probably not the best thing for an introvert.
I'm asking for you.
Well, I like a good chicken sandwich.
Touch me. Hi, David. Comment.
Oh my God.
Like.
You're actually an identical twin.
Push.
Maybe I'll just ask Julie to talk about what it is to be an identical twin.
Pick me up.
No, you didn't.
Shouting.
Surprise! Jeremiah, just hang on a second. I just got a text.
There's an edit for your new opening, Joseph.
I feel really honored to have been here, man.
But by the way, you've done a masterful job. Seriously.
It was such a joy.
Thanks, Joseph. It's an honor.
Good on you. This was a pleasure.
I mean, you are the prime example of how to pivot in this new environment.
I wish everybody gets an opportunity to interact with Joseph Jaffe and Corona TV.
Who needs Cameo when I've got my own personal Cameo? Well, hello, everybody. Hope you are well. I am Joseph Jaffe. I am the host and the showrunner of Corona TV, a show that was born in a global pandemic, but not defined by it. Yesterday was the 1 year anniversary, 1 year anniversary of Corona TV, and I did a few things differently. It's the same message. The message is force of circumstance will change and influence and impact the decisions you make. Sharon Vinderine, who's my guest today, was unable to make the show yesterday. And so I kind of pivoted the pivot, if you will. I ended up just showing the video from a year ago. And it was very meta to watch myself from a year ago with the memories seared into my consciousness, being able to look at how much we knew, how much we didn't, how right, how wrong, how confused, how misguided. It was for me, a very emotional, personal experience. And if you didn't see the show, please go watch it, or I would love for you to watch it. You can link to it through my link tree. And I hope that you did similar. I mean, I do. I hope that you were able to capture your thoughts, your memories, your feelings, because when we tell our children and their children, our grandchildren, whatever the case may be, will those memories be vivid? Will they still be accurate? Will they be concise and succinct? It helps when you have literally a video diary over the course of a full year, and that has been my life, and it has been our life if you've been a regular on the show, like Mr. David Libby, who says, Happy New Jaffe. Stephen Rubin, who was there, he was on the first show, as was Bob Farnham, who says, look at that lighting. You like the lighting today? I don't think I did anything differently. I just do not understand. Sometimes I think it's connected to the shirt that I'm wearing, but who knows? Anyway, let's get on with the show. I now found out I went to sleep last night a little early because I had to be on the Peloton bike this morning at 6 for a live class. And I was greeted with a text message from my son that he and a friend of his have bought Jaffe. So now, it's a family affair. And of course, he bought 4 measly Jaffes, and I had to top him up and supersize him as well. So, he already, of course, wants to bridge out and sell the Jaffes. Ungrateful little runt. I said, hold those Jaffes. Hold them. Use them to be a part of the Jaffe economy, as you can be, right? You can be on the show. You can get a shout out on the show. You can get a signed copy of the book. You can get a 10-minute interview to use in your sizzle reel or your sales reel, etc. The Jaffe economy is both tangible and intangible, and you are welcome to participate. And you are also welcome, if you like, to hang out, to strategery with me, to brainstorm any way that I can help you as well. These are all different ways of monetizing the creator economy. Well, today, speaking of creators and entrepreneurs extraordinaire, we're going to hear from Sharon Vinderine, who is the founder and CEO of Parent Tested, Parent Approved. We will find out about how she built a community of 200,000 members without spending a dime on advertising, on word of mouth alone. We've always believed it. We've always felt it. It's great to see a real life, true life success story of the power of what I would call commendations. So a little bit of a movement around. Sharon was meant to be yesterday. Sandra D. Robinson was meant to be today. I didn't hear from Sandra, and I panicked. But I also knew Sharon wanted to come back, so now Sharon is today. And then, of course, Sandra emailed this morning saying that emails had been in spam, and so now I've had to postpone her. So we, the only constant is change, and we just roll with the punches and we keep moving forward. Speaking of which, I am happy now to share our wonderful guest list on Friday. Diane Hesson, Sarah Townsend, Brittany Hodak, Ann Jansen, Lisa Bodell. I need a theme, though, and I haven't worked out what the theme is going to be. So if you figure out a theme, let me know. But I'm excited for the 5 of them to be on the show on Friday. Yes, Mr. David Libby, it is St. Patrick's Day. I'm not wearing green, I'm wearing red. But happy St. Paddy's Day to you. In fact, the Peloton class that I did this morning was all either Irish or Irish-inspired music, and it was very motivating, so much so that I almost had a beer at about 6:45 a.m., a green beer, but I didn't. Tom Morris is here, and he's happy to be here. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you too. I've spent St. Paddy's Day very differently in the past, generally drinking a lot of green beer, but not today, sadly. So because I did the show slightly differently yesterday, I didn't get to wish people happy birthday on the anniversary of Corona TV. So happy birthday to Petra Kakaroon, Mark Ben, Tom Waite, Lewis Howes, and today, Evan Bendel, Andrew Croft, Ruben Steiger, one of the original OGs of Second Life, Todd Deffrin, speaking of OGs as well. And for some reason, either no one on LinkedIn had a birthday yesterday, or I still can't find them, but the birthdays are back today. So Glenn McDermott, Tom Williams, Dan Wallace, Ellen Quicks, happy birthday. Well, let's get into our seated soliloquy. And the seated soliloquy is called peer. Or is it pair, peer to pair, whatever. You get the drift. So my guest today has inspired me to update a key soundbite of mine. Yes, I know I'm quoting myself. Here it is. The most influential salespeople are your customers. The most credible spokespeople are your employees. Well, now it's time to add a third category. The most trustworthy ombudspeople are your peers. We've all known for the longest time, whether implicitly or explicitly, that word of mouth works. But not just word of mouth, rather what I would call commendations, ratings, reviews, referrals, testimonials, endorsements, a seal of approval, if you will. Edelman's Trust Barometer created a gold standard or best practice that unequivocally states, we trust someone just like me, versus a hawking or shilling salesperson, a celebrity endorser, a corporation, or even government. During the early days of social media, and in particular with the meteoric rise of Twitter, we just asked the audience, like a lifeline on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, thinking of buying a noise-canceling headset? Well, what do you recommend? The wisdom of crowds would prevail, and in doing so, triangulate an unspoiled and incorruptible set of recommendations. As an aside, I just purchased a new Rodecaster Pro from Brian Solis. I didn't really need to think about it much. All the cool kids are using it nowadays, especially on Clubhouse and StreamYard. So Expect many sound effects in the future, including, "It's gold, Jerry, gold." For some strange reason, big brands still don't quite get this. The power of distributed trust. Perhaps it's because of the catch-22 that comes with the alarm bells that ring whenever the corporation breaches the trust proximity perimeter. And this tends to happen whenever they just open up their mouths. This does not mean it's time to wave the white flag and walk away. Not even close. So here are some tips. Trust is sacred. Trust is earned. Trust is a marathon, not a sprint. Trust can take a lifetime or the lifetime value of the customer to build and the blink of an eye to be destroyed. Trust is inextricably linked to customer obsession and the ability to truly serve an audience. Trust is inherently human. And to quote Carla Johnson, humans make mistakes, compassionate humans admit them. So what about brands? Well, how about brands make mistakes, compassionate brands admit them, trustworthy brands fix them? If I've learned anything in my time in this evolving marketing space, it's that glass beats mirror every single time. Transparency over opacity, imperfection over perfection, humanity over automation. And I could go on, but I trust you got the point of this soliloquy. Well, now it's time to bring on my trustworthy guest, Sharon Vinderine. Sharon Vinderine is the founder of Parent Tested, Parent Approved, an awards-based platform with a dedicated community of over 200,000 families who test and review the latest and greatest products for their family. As a leader in her field, Sharon has been acknowledged as an industry leader and innovator. She has appeared on more than 250 TV shows on networks like ABC, NBC, and Fox, and shows like the Rachael Ray Show, Headline News, the Steve Harvey Show, and MSNBC. I think I need to talk to her and ask her how I can get on these shows. Maybe she can teach me a thing or two. Sharon, welcome to Corona TV.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here today. And thank you for putting that image up on the screen before, because it reminds me what I used to look like when I put on jewelry and jackets, because I used to have someplace to go.
And now we're not dressed up and nowhere to go.
Yes,
I guess.
you got it. You got it.
Well, I actually did dress up for you today. I'm wearing a collared shirt, and I actually I feel better. I mean, this whole change of environment, you know, the background, Nelson Mandela over there, you know, who I know has probably a special place in your heart. My fake ferns. Maybe this show could be between two fake ferns. I don't know. But I think maybe dressing up sometimes actually does help. But it helps you and makes you raise your game.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's important. I never, so on the days that I am working from home, I never choose to do the whole sweatpant thing, because I feel like it puts me in a different mindset. I'm that person who likes to put myself together no matter whether I'm going to be at home or I'm going to be going out. And also, you know, it's helpful because you tend to do a zillion back-to-back Zoom calls all day. And, you know, accidentally, you're going to stand up. And if they see the sweatpants or the shorts, well, then you end up becoming some sort of viral meme. So, yeah.
Yeah, and you don't want to be a viral meme. I mean, the one thing that I've always told brands when I've, you know, spoken to them is that, you know, instant anything these days is bad. You know, it's bad. The real power comes from the slow burn, from grassroots, from ground up, from the ability to start slow and then build something that is long lasting and enduring. And sure, you can have those accelerants or those, you know, we all want the hockey stick curve, but for the most part, I mean, you've probably found that as well. And we'll talk, we'll obviously get to your business soon enough, but you've probably found that that when brands are on the receiving end of viral word of mouth associated with the product, it's generally bad, right? It's a recall, or it's something that didn't pass the smell test.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Remember the days where any news was, you were excited to have coverage. And I feel like these days you kind of like to fly under the radar because you never know what kind of explosion can come out of any press hit or being viral at all. So yeah, it's a very different economy than it was even, less than 10 years ago, I would say.
A big source of discussion over the last couple of weeks has actually come from, I don't know if you were following the Burger King tweet on International Women's Day saying women belong in the kitchen.
Yes,
and then of course, it was a link baiting exercise. But one of the discussions, and I think it's been very interesting, is this idea that in this day and age of, quote, cancel culture, are the stakes so high that brands can't afford to be sensationalist or take risks or take chances? And it's a double-edged sword, right? It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. But it's also, it would be incredibly sad if now brands become even more conservative and risk averse because of the fear of being canceled.
Well, what choice do they really have? I mean, I feel quite passionate about this topic, but yet I limit my discussion around it because I don't want to be part of cancel culture. But I feel like you have to be so cautious with anything and everything that you say. So brands do have to backtrack and now go to the more conservative versus the more cheeky. And because they have to be careful, because it takes the slightest misinterpretation of what they're saying in order for it to completely take their brand down. So it's a really difficult environment, I think, to be a marketer these days. I've taken to posting on social media far less frequently because sometimes I think to myself, the most innocent comment or tweet could likely be misinterpreted in 100 different ways that I didn't think about. So I'd almost rather be silent than be judged.
That's interesting. And of course, it's a pity if that's the world we're living in. But I've always believed that authenticity will prevail. That if you are true to yourself, and for someone like me, that doesn't. I don't live in the background. I don't live in the shadows. Right. I live in an environment that is on the leading edge and sometimes the bleeding edge. And, the issue of being on the bleeding edge is you can also be cut or cut yourself, or even worse, have a self-inflicted wound. But I've always felt that when you can, what steers me down the straight and narrow is the resolution of being in it for the right reasons, I guess, is the way I would say that.
Yeah, and I think, we all come to it with some sort of altruistic perspective. The problem has become that, I don't know if it's because people have more time on their hands or spending more time online. The problem has become that people can take what one perceives to be an innocent statement and look at it from a myriad of perspectives, and lose the original meaning of the statement and see only, one possibly negative interpretation of it. So it becomes really difficult to gauge what you're going to say, because you used to be able to say something and people would realize when you're joking, when you're not. You could insert a little bit of humor. Now I feel like it's almost become a dangerous thing to insert humor, because inevitably someone is not going to see the humor in your commentary, and you will be judged quite harshly as a result of it.
Yeah, ambiguity is a huge part of that, and I'm gonna put a pin in that for a moment, because when we talk about moms, and we talk about, in particular, we talk about their purchasing power, their influence, their power in general. We'll talk about what happens when a brand or a product gets on the wrong end of this, tsunami of sentiment coming from moms. But let's take a hard left for a moment and get to know you a little bit better. and I'm going to refrain from any South African references for now. But here's what I learned about you through our crack squad of researchers and private investigators. So this is you've overcome your fears. So that's a good one. Tell us a little bit about how you did that, right? You were unable to eat or sleep for 2 days prior. You probably got a lot of work done because you were so afraid of flying. And now, well, maybe not now, but in the last year, you've had to just somehow overcome it because of your, I think, incredible publicity and television appearances.
Right. So it's ironic because my father is a recreational pilot. So growing up, I used to fly on these tiny little Cessnas with him, and I had no fears, no issues. Put me on a large plane, and all of a sudden the panic would literally set in, I would say 48 to 72 hours prior to a flight. And I remember being at the airport, and this was shortly after my television appearances started. So this probably goes back 8 to 10 years. And I remember it being pouring, storming weather out. I was at the airport, and just about every single flight had been canceled except mine. And I remember calling my dad practically in tears saying, okay, I don't understand this. If every other plane is canceling, clearly it is too dangerous for us to go up in the sky.
Yeah.
So my dad conference called in a pilot friend of his because he knew his opinion wasn't going to be enough for me. And the pilot literally talked me down because I was in a corner, in the fetal position. And he was just explaining to me the dynamics of flying and, what turbulence does and how it can't, he somehow rationalized it to me. And I'm not going to say that the fear all of a sudden completely disappeared. And when there's turbulence, I don't, still revert back to that anxiety. But I didn't have a choice. I was on a plane almost every, somewhere between 5 to 10 days. I was traveling most of the year over year, and I didn't have a choice. So I had to find all of these different techniques in my mind in order to find the calm. Because otherwise, I kept thinking to myself, if I want to run a successful business and I want to build brand awareness, this is just something I have to overcome. I need to be able to travel in order to do that. End of story, no choice about it.
You've just come up with an amazing little soundbite called Find the Calm. We got to do whatever it takes to find the calm.
Yeah.
So what were a couple of those techniques that have helped you find the calm with respect to flying and maybe just in life in general? How do you, when the world is going crazy around you, how do you find the calm?
So you're going to really get a kick out of this one. I had found this probably the same day I was panicking. It was this analogy where they said, imagine a bowl of Jell-O, and imagine someone has inserted you somewhere in the center of that bowl of Jell-O, and then they start jiggling the bowl. The reality is you're going to feel that turbulence, and it's going to feel horrible, but that Jell-O is going to keep you up in the air, and you will not get knocked out of the sky. You will feel that turbulence, you will feel that anxiety, but it'll pass once they stop jiggling the bowl, and you will not drop. So while I originally used to use that just for the plane rides, and literally I'd be picturing a bowl of Jell-O, everybody seems to picture a different color in their mind. Mine's yellow for whatever reason. And I feel like that is a perfect analogy for most of life, especially as an entrepreneur, because as an entrepreneur, you are on this constant roller coaster ride, and you are being bumped and bruised and bounced around, and you need to keep in mind, and you need to, certainly you've seen it in the last year and all the interviews you've done and how you've had to pivot. You need something to just calm you a bit, and I feel like that Jell-O analogy just works for me for whatever reason.
I love it. Yellow Jell-O. So I've had to go and find a bit of Jell-O in the background there. So, I found the wrong color, obviously. What I wanted.
Everybody has their own color. Yellow just happens to be the one that pops into my head. But it's funny. Everybody picks their own color when they imagine that bowl of Jell-O. But it works somehow.
Hashtag Yellow Jell-O. Adam John endorses Find the Calm. And Tom says, my com often starts with a deep breath and a smile. And he adds, and the old philosophical slogan, nothing's as bad as it seems or as good as it seems, except chocolate and maybe Jell-O.
And potato chips. I'm going to have to throw in potato chips.
And potato chips. Now, what is this obsession with potato chips? We need to understand this a little bit more. That what this love for potato chips, is it a specific kind of chip? Is it, Simba chips or or knickknacks or for flings from South Africa? You must know those brands. What's going on with chips?
It's a savory obsession. So a bag of any type of chip that is salt and vinegar or Doritos, it is literally my kryptonite. You can put it in front of me and you could have the most delicious cakes and desserts surrounding it. I will go for that bag of chips. It is the one thing that I am trying to overcome. I've now set myself a limit. I'm allowed one bag of chips a week because going cold turkey is just crazy. My staff, the team at PTPA, think it's hilarious. Like on my birthday, they usually buy me hordes and hordes of chips. And I think we even have a picture somewhere on our Instagram feed of me hiding under my desk with all of these bags of chips. It's my thing.
All right. Well, we are, I'm sure, going to find many more obsessive analogies with respect to chips and Jell-O. I suppose, like in this awful world we're living in these days, you get the Jell-O when you're in hospital. So let's ignore the Jell-O. Let's banish the Jell-O and let's go back to the library for a moment. But potato chips, Terra chips, JetBlue, hopefully we will be eating many, many more bags of chips as we start flying again. How about that?
Absolutely. Sounds good to me.
All right. So let's get into your day job and talk about, so parent tested, parent approved. Is this kind of like a good housekeeping seal or a Consumer Reports? Tell us a little bit about the business, because it's fascinating. I want to know, and then we'll talk about how you built it. But what is it? Why do you exist? What role do you serve? What value do you add?
Right. So yes, it is similar to those other programs you referenced, just very specific to mom. The reality is moms trust moms. And in your opening soliloquy, you said it perfectly. It's all trust-based. You will buy something based on a recommendation from someone that you respect. Moms feel exactly the same way. And I'm glad you referenced the Edelman Trust Barometer, because they keep getting it right every time they put something out. The reality is consumers want to purchase what other consumers who they consider similar to them are buying and recommending. So the whole notion behind parent tested, parent approved was, when I started the company, I had 2 children under the age of 2. I was running out, I was buying all kinds of products based on how fabulous they looked in packaging and how expensive it was. I figured if it's really expensive, it must be great. I'd bring them home, they'd serve no purpose. I would call a group of my friends who were at a similar life stage and ask them what products they recommended. And those products inevitably were the ones that lasted with me the longest. So I thought, if only there was a way to walk into a store with 20 of my best friends every time I needed to purchase something. And I thought, okay, I'm going to create a seal of approval that is going to be the equivalent of shopping with my best friends. And that seal of approval is parent tested, parent approved. So we know in the marketplace, you go and look for a product. It could be a steam mop or a vacuum, let's say, or a shampoo or conditioner. There are going to be so many choices that you are completely overwhelmed. And tiny little things differentiate them. It might be packaging, they might be 10 cents cheaper, but nothing really stands out. And an endorsement from parent tested, parent approved stands out. In fact, we have research that shows 86% of consumers are more likely to purchase a product with the seal of approval than without. So that's the whole basis. Moms trust moms. We put products through the test with real moms. That's the only way a product can earn our certification.
Can you get parent tested, parent rejected? Is
Absolutely.
there? So, but that isn't a seal. I mean, it is a seal, but it's not one you want to carry.
It's not one that I feel people are going to pay for. But what we do for the products that don't earn our seal of approval, so we collect market research when we're testing a product, and the manufacturers actually receive that market research when we're done the testing, and they receive testimonials from the consumers. If a product doesn't earn the seal, they're still getting that valuable market research, because our goal is we want to help brands make products that are actually going to sell and that are going to fulfill the needs of consumers. So we don't give them the parent rejected seal, but we do give them the feedback in the hopes that they'll be making a better product as a result of that feedback.
And have there been examples of products that have actually taken that advice and those results to heart and come back a second or a third time and earned that seal?
Yep. I can't remember the name of the product now. There was a NASA engineer who he had decided he was going to put together a math tutoring program. And this program was back in the days on a DVD, and it had a workbook, and we put it through the test, and consumers just felt it was completely overwhelming, did not help their kids at all, was way above anything their kids would understand. Anyhow, we gave him all the feedback. He was obviously very disappointed. A year later, he came back with a new and improved program. And we tested it again. We actually had the opportunity to do this with the Rachael Ray Show. They wanted to know, how is this product going to do after they come back? And the reviews were just unbelievable. We gave it to a completely different group of parents. He had literally taken all of the feedback that he had received and made a better product, and ended up selling, hundreds of thousands of units as a result. And that is just the power of actually listening to your audience, the people you are selling to, not taking it to heart and going, oh, these people don't know what they think about, because a lot of people, we put our sweat equity into everything that we make. And we take it to heart, and we take it offensively, and we assume that the consumer just isn't educated enough. But the reality is they're the people you want to sell to, so you need their guidance.
I've coined a new term, or at least maybe you've coined the term. I've just put some letters and consonants into it. Brand redemption, right? The opportunity to get, as the old saying goes, you don't get a second chance to make a good first impression, but you do get a second chance to make a great second impression. And so we all love redemption, right? It certainly in the US, everybody loves a comeback story. Yeah. But this doesn't come naturally to brands. They're not that interested or open or even vulnerable enough to admit that they're not perfect, and be able to put their, what do they say, the tail between their legs, walk off, but come back stronger. Yeah. Why? Or I could be wrong, but why is it that large, the bigger they come, the less open they are to actually getting and using feedback?
I think it's because they're so used to being number one in the marketplace and not having to fight for those eyeballs. Brand loyalty for years was something that was just inherent when you were going shopping. If there was a brand you loved, you would continue to buy it. Now there are so many more brands. Consumers are open to private label brands. They have a lot more, respect's not the right word for it, but they are open to trying private label. And so that brand loyalty has really started disappearing. And I think national brands that, have been around for decades really need to rethink that particular angle. They, they're used to being number one. So even when it comes, I have a lot of respect for the brands that come to us, and we have national brands that we work with, like, let's say, Procter & Gamble. I think it's fantastic that they are willing to put their money where their mouth is. They are willing to say, here you go, here is a handful of our products, put them to the test with your moms, because we believe that our product is fantastic and it's going to earn that parent tested, parent approved endorsement. So there are brands that are, willing to do that. But on the other hand, for a huge national brand to have to make a modification on a product, that is a massive undertaking. Whereas when it comes to challenger brands, they are new, they're evolving, they are used to co-creating, and for people in the audience who might not know that terminology, they're used to talking to their consumer audience and growing with the feedback they receive. And they're more agile. So it's a lot easier for them to take that feedback, incorporate it, and launch it into the second beta of a product.
There is so much richness in what you just said. This idea that a challenger brand is by definition or by default more open to feedback because they're still growing, they're still learning. And I mean, it is the quintessential Avis, we try harder, being in second place versus being that it's tough at the top, which is where these large brands are afraid to take a chance, afraid to fail, and combined with a certain degree of arrogance.
Well, I think it's also the agility. Like, imagine what it must take to take the feedback from, let's say, 50 consumers on a large national brand and try and convince from the top down all the different levels that, hey, this is valuable information and we need to try and make a change. And now you're making that change, and now you have to change your packaging, and you need to change your ingredients, and you need to talk to all the retailers, and what do you do about all the product that's on the shelf? I mean, it's a massive undertaking. Whereas these smaller challenger brands are just far more agile. They're a team of 10 people, and they don't have so many levels of bureaucracy. It's just a lot easier for them to make those changes, I think.
By the way, David Libby says, my wife was the brand manager for Leapfrog Toys. I get it. Believe me, I get it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So maybe we'll see him in the after show, and he can explain his Leapfrog Toys story. I'm sure that she got a good response from parent tested, parent approved. There's no doubt. I'm just speaking on complete ignorance and zero authority. But Sharon, let's take a step back and understand the story, because it's amazing, right? Everyone's talking about 10xing and 100xing, and I'm poor at math, but I know that's 1, 2, 3. That's 1,000xing. That's pretty good growth. How did you grow from the 20 of your best friends, your shopping friends, to this community? And it's not even 200,000 moms, right? It's 200,000 families.
Right. So I'm going to say it's a combination of things. So back when I started the company, which was 14 years ago, TV was the way to promote yourself. If you were on TV, you were credible. People, trusted what you said, believed in what you were presenting to them. And so very early on in the business, I decided I needed to figure out a way to get on TV. So I was pretty relentless in pitching producers, harassing producers, I think some would say, until a producer of a national show in Canada at the time actually finally responded and said, okay, I will give you one segment opportunity if you promise to never bother me again after this one segment. And I was like, yes, absolutely, no problem, done. So that one segment turned into a regular segment with them. And then I used that, I'm going to use a positive word for it, tenacity, to try and get myself on more shows. So every time I did a show, I had an opportunity to have more families sign up. I remember the first time I did the Rachael Ray Show, I think overnight we had 10,000 new members sign up. When I did the Steve Harvey Show, very similar things happened. So it was all about being out there, pounding the proverbial pavement in order to grow that community. Word of mouth, when we do testing with our members, we're giving product for free. So we're giving products like mattresses, Dyson fans and vacuums, foods, infant products. We're giving all that out for free. So it's kind of a win-win. So one mom would start telling all of her mom friends, and so on and so on. And that's really, that's how the community has been built up over time. And I would say over the last 3 years, it's become increasingly difficult to grow that community because you are competing against so many other communities out there. But what we're most proud of is that we have a membership that we have managed to retain. And I think that's because, you referenced some other awards programs earlier on. What we do differently than anyone else, and have always led with this, is moms are the best judges. So we take these products, we put them in the hands of moms, and certainly not 200,000 moms. We pick a small number of them. And we are giving them these products to test in real life environments. So that leapfrog toy, well, it's great that it might get tested in a lab, something like Good Housekeeping does. But we want to take that and actually bring it into the home where they have 4 or 5 children who might be playing with that particular toy. It's been dropped 1,000 times now. Everybody's fighting over it. Did it actually last? Did it do what it said it was going to do? Is it something you're going to recommend to someone else? We believe that's what is important when it comes to making a purchasing decision. So that was a really long-winded answer for your question.
No, but I got a lot out of it, because what I realized is that, you've got to eat your own dog food, or maybe I should say you've got to be able to eat your own yellow jello, because the word of mouth of your community experience ultimately is as much a part of that growth hacking success formula as the formula itself. If you didn't treat your community well, if you weren't engaged, if you didn't nurture, the community would stop growing. And so it wasn't just about the free stuff, or about just the power of moms telling other moms and helping other moms. It was about the fact that I guess that you were building community as opposed to transactions or interactions.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important distinction, because there's a lot of communities out there that are very much simply built on contesters, because contesters boost their numbers. So then they're able to say, hey, I have a database of 1 million people. But in terms of that database, how much of that million is actually community? How many of them, like when we put out a survey to our consumer audience, because we're trying to find out about trends that are happening, we have thousands of respondents within an hour. That means people are engaged. They're not just there because they're contesters. They're there because they care. They want to make a difference. And you know what? Moms have opinions, and they want to share them, the good, the bad, and the ugly. They are eager to share those opinions. And I think that's where the distinction of community versus database really kicks in.
I can't help but go back to the fact that, we see the data about the purchasing power and the influence of moms in particular. But we've never seen it as a force in terms of even whether it's messaging, whether it's just recognizing how powerful moms are as a segment, as a constituency. Do you think that is that a true statement? I mean, obviously you feel that. You've built a business around that, but are moms still undervalued or taken for granted on many levels by the corporate world?
I don't think so. I think it's drastically evolved. I think, if you're a brand and you don't realize that mom is the #1 decision maker, you are living under a rock, quite frankly. I think the Edelman Trust Barometer is that great example. They come back with research year over year indicating that. There are so many groups out there that publish research on this on a regular basis. If you look at Instagram, everyday moms are incredibly influential. So I'm going to give you an example. We have something called Insta Boost. Basically, if you imagine, out of our 200,000 members, we went to these moms and said, hey, we're creating this very unique Instagram community. We don't care how many followers you have. We just want to know that you're passionate about the products that earn our seal of approval and are happy to share that amongst your friends. So we selected about 2,000 moms who applied out of the 50,000 who applied. We vetted their Instagram accounts just to make sure they were in line with, the type of community that we want representing us. And what we've done is when a brand earns a seal of approval, we give these moms what's called a mission. Basically, they log into their account, they see an image that we've created with the product, some language, some hashtags, and we say, hey, go for it. Go post on Instagram this picture this text. And what we have found is moms, even with followers of only 50, when they post en masse like that, they are far more influential than when we do a program with influencers who might charge us anywhere from $4,000 to $7,000 per post. These moms from our community are more impactful in terms of driving results because moms trust moms, especially moms they know that are relatable. You know, a celebrity is just not relatable to me. I might admire and, you know, love Jennifer Lopez's music and her posts and all the rest of that, but I also don't think that what she purchases is necessarily going to influence what I purchase, versus one of my close friends who I know we are in a similar, whether it is income, stage of life, whatever it is, those things are going to influence me more than a celebrity or an influencer.
Right. Moms trust moms, and that trust has been built up over hundreds of years. The idea of this, you know, community that spans generations. So we always do something on Corona TV, which is a quote of the episode. And today's quote for you really talks about that. Trust has to be earned and should come only after the passage of time. And that was said by Arthur Ashe, which I thought was, you know, it's always nice when you see not just what was said, but who said it. This idea that the passage of time, and remember, it's not through, it's after the passage of time. It says you've got to do your time. You've got to be able to earn your spurs. You've got to be able to earn that trust. It isn't fleeting. There is no quick fix. But the advantage of being a mom is that there are moms that came before you, many of them, quite literally your own, but also an entire, you know, suites of generations of moms that, you know, have been creating this powerful army.
Yep, absolutely. They are a force to be reckoned with.
And Bowman says makes sense that he would say that. Many things that make a lot of sense, no doubt. So I want to go back to something else, which is we were discussing beforehand, and that is about being an entrepreneur. You've built this amazing business, Sharon. But one of the things that you were saying when we're looking at the briefing documents was you said that being an entrepreneur is so much less glamorous than most would think. You wouldn't think that of you with 200. I'm thinking 200,000 moms get introduced to Corona TV and give me the parent-tested, parent-approved seal. You know, I'm on Easy Street. You know, you want some equity? I'll give you some. But why is it not as glamorous as people might think from the outside looking in?
I mean, you know, I said this earlier, being an entrepreneur is a roller coaster ride. I feel like a yo-yo most days. The highs are incredibly high. The lows are so incredibly low. I think we have seen that now more than ever. You know, Corona has really, really tried my mental state, my patience, my enthusiasm. I love what I do. I love the brand that myself and my team have successfully built. I love the opportunities I've had. I love when I walk into a store and I see the parent-tested, parent-approved seal on something. There is no greater sense of pride. It's just the most amazing feeling. But the volume of work that goes into seeing that one product or gaining the trust of that one mom is incredible. It is just, you know, every day I feel brings its own challenges, you know, and I'm sure you and most of your audience feel exactly the same way. It's, there's no free ride. And especially when you're a small company and you have a very small team to rely on, everyone is so incredibly important. And, you know, it is hard to stay motivated, enthusiastic, and kind of relay that to people at all times. It's definitely a struggle. That's the reality of being an entrepreneur.
I think we need to go back and revisit one of your really amazing sound bites, which is find the calm. I think we have to find something else when we have a dark day or we have a challenging day as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's find the calm. It's maybe find something else. And earlier I was looking at some of the comments, and I got to go find it. But Adam, I think it was coming from Adam John, and he spoke about tenacity. I'll find it and put it up. But that was you. That was you at the beginning.
Right.
Being so, I'll even say, I'm sure, annoying to a fault. But just because it was your passion, it was your life, you weren't going to give up any time. Here it is. He said, tenacity is an underrated character trait, in my humble opinion. Love the story, Sharon Vinderine. So what do you do when you're having a bad entrepreneur day? I've some people have bad hair days. Some people I have bad technology days. What do we do when we have bad entrepreneur days?
Yeah. So I have come up with a few things that work specifically for me. So while I have the attention span of a gnat, and I am off the charts ADHD, I have taken up meditating in the morning. So I downloaded the Calm app, and it is 10 of the hardest minutes of my life in the morning, but I do it and I feel like it calms me. It relaxes me. I even love that when you launch the app, before it lets you see anything, it says, take a deep breath. And it makes me stop, just consider, relax, and it sets me up for the day. And I am not a particularly spiritual, patient person, but meditating sets my day up right. I've also been lucky enough, I really consider myself blessed. There are a handful of business people who I consider geniuses in their own right that have decided they love the notion of PTPA and just want to help me. So they've almost become this informal board of advisors who I can turn to and say, oh my God, what do I do? This is just driving me nuts. And they kind of give me perspective. One of them, there's this duo of these two guys who are just brilliant. They sold their company for $100 million. And they just want to give me guidance. And I called them one day saying, I am at my wit's end. Like, I don't want to do this. This is exhausting. And they looked at me through Zoom and they said, I don't think you have to change anything. I think you need us just to remind you that this is what you have accomplished in the last 14 years. These are the awards you've won. These are all these amazing things that you have accomplished. Write them down so that you remember them, because you don't need to change anything. You just need to be reminded of the successes in those times where you feel like the biggest failure. So yesterday, for example, as you mentioned, we were supposed to do a segment together. My day started with a very important Zoom call that was interrupted because the internet at our offices went down. Then I ended up having to cancel on you because my dad called me and he was feeling like he might be having a heart attack. So I was calling 911 and rushing to the hospital. And then I had another important meeting that ended up crashing because of Zoom yet again. And by the end of the day, I just felt like there is nothing that could go right on this particular day. But I ended the day with, I've written in my journal all of the successes, what I need to remind myself of at the worst times. I have a husband who is the leader of my fan club, who always reminds me how amazing he thinks I am. And this one bonus thing that if you have children who are of writing age, I encourage you to get them to do. My daughter made me an envelope. And within that envelope were about 8 to 10 different envelopes. And they say things like, open this when feeling sad. Open this when you need to feel good about yourself. And each one of those puts a smile on my face because it comes from literally one of the most important people in my life and reminds me, a note that says, you might be feeling lousy, but I think you are the best possible mom on the planet and I love you so much. The simplest thing like that can change your complete perspective on life. So to summarize, it comes down to surrounding yourself with people who believe in you, who will lift you up when you're feeling really, really crappy. And I was feeling really crappy yesterday. And finding something that stabilizes you, like meditation. That's a lot of information.
No, I mean, it was, you know, you and I were connected to one another yesterday because you were meant to be on the show. And I just, when I got your email, it wasn't even, you know, I was like, that's fine. And I'm so happy that here you are 24 hours later, which obviously implies that your dad is in good hands and in good care. And what I realized is 1 year after the launch of Corona TV, it was my reminder about the importance of and the fragility of life and what really counts. And one of the things that I've said many times on the show is you have to learn to forgive yourself. You've got to, you know, we're so hard on ourselves at the best of times and at the worst of times. But I love how you've brought it back to this idea of reminding. We need to remind ourselves, and if we can't remind ourselves, then we need people around us to help us.
Right.
Help us remember.
In order to have people like that in your life, you need to learn to become vulnerable. So we're used to putting on this big, strong face. Oh, I'm the boss and I created this and I have this amazing company. But underneath all that, you read any success story of any entrepreneur and they will tell you it's been failure after failure after failure. And it's making yourself vulnerable and surrounding yourself with people that you're open to sharing those vulnerabilities with that will really help just improve your outlook. And I think that's the biggest takeaway for leaders this year. It is be vulnerable, because nobody actually believes that you are as strong as the face that you put out there.
I wish every single leader out there was watching right now, because whether we spoke about brands, whether we spoke about leadership, it is vulnerability that is now the ultimate superpower. And, you know, Adam made this comment earlier about impact as well. It's interesting how you've created just this perfect mix of quality and quantity, which is a purchasing power. You know, 200,000 is a powerful number indeed, but you always reduce it to the power of one person, one opinion, one relationship. And that certainly is what has fueled you as well. Sharon, I'm so happy that you're even here in the virtual studio, because it does speak to what is important in life. There are a couple of things as we wind down. First of all, if you're looking to connect with Sharon and not send her yellow jello, but potato chips, you can do it on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Twitter. But more importantly, if you want to join the community, I know I'm not a mom, but I know at least one mom, and I want free stuff too. And I'll be diligent. I may register as Josephine, but I want
that too. It's fine.
Dad. Well, then I'm definitely in. But you can join the community at PTPA, and then just talk a little bit about if you are actually a brand. There's a different website, and talk about that process.
Sure. So basically, brands who, you know, those brands that I challenge to put some thought and testing behind their product. Anyone interested in doing that, we have a separate site called ptpaawards.com. And basically the process is, it's a paid for process where you pay to have your product go through market research with members of our community. We will take members that are your exact target demographic. You tell us, you could tell us anything from gender, income, you know, state, city, number of children, and we will match up your product with the right families. They will test those products. They will complete a survey that is customized to your product. They will leave testimonials about their experience. And assuming you do well, You get it licensed to use the parent-tested, parent-approved seal. You get placement on our website. You can leverage those testimonials. And there's so many more marketing initiatives that go around with it, but that's the gist of it.
Wonderful. Well, Sharon, you have one more task today, which is to answer the very light, fluffy, frivolous, and superficial question, how will you be remembered?
So when I started this company, I had one belief system behind it. My dad, when I was young, was terminally ill, they thought. And he said to me, you know, if I won't be there to give you this advice later on in life, I want you to remember that the best thing you can do in the world is make a difference in the lives of others. So as part of PTPA, we have given away almost $1 million in product to families across North America. So I want to be remembered as somebody who wanted to have a positive impact in the world, who wanted to change the way consumers shop, who wanted to surprise people with the fact that there truly is the possibility of receiving something for absolutely nothing. I hope that's how I'll be remembered.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you already are. And pick your category. These are the categories that fuel families, that fuel connections, that fuel lives, and fuel passion. I loved the fact that we got a second chance to make a great first impression. In this case, we got that, right? I said earlier, you don't get a second chance to make a good first impression, but today we actually proved the exception to that rule. I leave you in the safe and comfortable hands of, I don't know how safe they are, but they're certainly comfortable, Mr. Chuck Norris.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
There you go. Let's head to the Zoom after show. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Corona TV with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. Corona TV is the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing. The after show on Zoom starts right now at bit.ly/Corona TV After Show. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show at coronatv.show. And if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, text Corona TV to 66866 or visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.